So that's actually a very good question. I'll go through the basics of explaining what the peace technique is and then compare it to the Reid technique for you. So the peace technique of interrogation is a 5-stage model, and they're listed right here for you to see, hence the name peace. The idea of the peace technique is that the suspect is talking more than the interrogator. In the beginning, you're building rapport and getting to know your suspect so that your suspect would be comfortable enough to talk and tell you their story. But after that, your goal is to let the suspect tell you the events of what happened without interruption. And once that story is completed, that's when the interrogator really starts to join in on the conversation. The interrogator then presents instances where the suspect's story contradicts itself or when outside evidence contradicts the suspect's story. The peace technique does not assume guilt in your suspect. You're supposed to go into each interrogation session with the idea that you're just trying to collect the facts of the case. This doesn't mean that the peace technique doesn't care about confessions at all. But by going in without the assumption of guilt in your suspect, you're able to actually look into the facts of a case, get the events that happened, possibly get some actionable intelligence, and still work towards that confession, lowering the chance of false confessions from innocent people. And that's one of the main differences between the peace technique and the Reid technique. With Reid, you go into that interrogation session with the idea that your suspect is guilty and it is your job to get a confession. The peace technique acknowledges that you can still get a conviction without a confession. You just need to know what happened. So for the Reid technique, the confession is the goal. The peace technique, the information is the goal, and a confession is just a bonus. And another difference between peace and Reid is that peace has an evaluation phase. It's not an afterthought, it's actually part of the technique. And during the evaluation stage, you look at the entirety of the session. How well did you do? How did the suspect respond? Is the facts that the suspect presented consistent with the facts that you already know about the case? And if the suspect confessed, would it be a valid confession or was it a false confession? And it encourages multiple sessions if during the evaluation phase you realize that something is off, either in what you did, how the suspect responded, or for some reason that confession doesn't feel right. Internationally, many law enforcement agencies are moving from the Reid technique to the peace technique because they're starting to realize that that switch is going to lower the amount of false convictions due to coerced confessions. And it's time for law enforcement agencies in the United States to ditch the Reid technique and make that switch over to the peace technique.